Shauna. She can be with us. His daughter is there as well. Right? Yes, please. Somebody's missing. Oh, right. He said the other two are BCM? I don't. Okay. Right. Right. Anyhow, God will bless him. We are going to, well, he will come down on the lower rostrum to deliver the presentation or message to you at this time. We pray that you will offer a word of prayer for him and that your hearts will be blessed as he delivers the message to you. Your congregation, Brother Carter.
Use this or this? Use this one or this one? Use this? Use this? Let me leave it here. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be back here and to be able to park in a spot that says reserved. Thank you very much. When I came, somebody told me that spot is yours. Be like royalty. Thank you. And also, I'm also happy to be able to come back and share some information that relatively I've been over the last 4 or 5 years or more sharing at various churches inside the Seventh-day Adventist congregation and outside other denominations. And I think the last time I was here was actually to deliver a health message, and that was from Eden to Eden. I was sitting there trying to remember the title, Eden to Eden, and when we spoke about fruits, nuts, and grains, and we spoke about what happened in the Exodus and how God wants us to get back there as far as our eating is concerned and our health is concerned. Before I begin, I almost shed tears sitting there, because I can count about three persons here who I consider mentors. One was an old primary school teacher of mine. I saw him at the back. I don't see him now. I know he's here somewhere, but Brother Tyrone Marshall, where is he? And he was also my first elder. At one point when I was here, I remember saying to him one day, we had many conversations, and I remember saying to him one day, I said, Brother Tyrone, I'm looking around, I don't see anybody in here my age anymore. And my friends are gone. And he told me, you stick around though, because you're going to stick around for the younger ones. Thank you. I stuck around. And I'm also glad to see you again as well. My mother called me, and some people passed me at the crusade and said, you were up there. Brother Marshall, God is good. God is good. My other mentor here is Brother Victor Nurse. I saw him this morning. He was my Sabbath school teacher, and I always want to make mention of Brother Nurse, because it was partially his style that I used for teaching academically, and my other mentor, Dr. Elliot Duglin. And I remember sitting in those Sabbath school classes right up there, where you all are, and I remember the style with which he taught was what you would call provocative learning. You know what provocative learning is? He would throw things out at you to get you thinking. Sometimes he would throw something out at you that was not necessarily true or scriptural or biblical, but he wanted you to think, or he wanted you to respond. Yes? I tried that a few times at Holders. It didn't go down too well. Because even though I would at the end come back like Brother Ding and say, well, this is the word of the Lord, people walk away with the question I asked and talk about it too. So sometimes you can't do anything about that. People hear what they want to hear. But I thank him as well. And thirdly, Brother Vince Yearwood. I remember I have an almost 30-year-old document from him on leadership, and that he did a presentation at the what was the Caribbean Hotel. It's just a building there standing now. I don't know if you remember that, Brother Vince. No, he doesn't remember that. And he took a whole set of us airways to the Caribbean Hotel, and we did leadership training. And that presentation was so well done by Brother Vince Searwood that when he was finished, I don't know, it impacted me significantly. And anytime I had to do one of those conferences anywhere, I would call him. I know, you remember I called you for Indian Ground? You remember that one? Right. That document says 1991, so I am old. This is 2019, but God is good. I said I almost shed a tear when he was talking, because I spent the earlier part of this week being tested for the same condition. I'm having some, I remember I spoke to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and I'm having similar symptoms. And so I want you to also pray for me as you pray for Brother Vince. I don't know what the future holds. I don't really want to see those test results, and that's the reason why I don't go to the doctor. But I want to encourage you to go to yours. I usually try to find alternative means of or remedies. I wouldn't be able to talk about all of those today. I can only talk about a few of them, but there's a 2-hour presentation that I would do, and it's best to do in an AY service, because we can actually discuss. But I don't like drugs. And I am thankful for having studied pharmacology to know what drugs to avoid. And literally what drugs to avoid and what drugs to help others avoid. Because there's some drugs out there that are not good for us. And one such drug is what you call those things called statins. We got them called Crestor and Mevacor and atorvastatin, and those Lipitor. Those are not designed for the human body. They're designed to kill you. And the mechanism of action is wrong. It is ungodly. That is how I teach my students. It is an ungodly mechanism of action. I still have to teach them the mechanism. But this drug stops the synthesis of cholesterol. And we've been fooled to believe that all cholesterol is really that bad. We need cholesterol to survive. The basic building block of the human body is the cell. And the membrane around the cell is comprised of cholesterol. If you stop the synthesis of cholesterol, where is your source of cholesterol? And if you stop the synthesis of cholesterol, you no longer have a source of cholesterol by taking these demons, because that's what pharmacy or pharmacognosy or pharmacology, the word pharmaco, drug, means demon. By taking these demons, that's what it does to you. And literally, and by example, I'm going to give you, this is really not part of the presentation, but I want to say this to you. By example, I want to give to you, in part, how we would go about destroying a fungal cell. The fungal cell and the human cell are very similar. The difference is that the fungal cell, in its membrane, is made up of something called ergosterol. We have what? We have cholesterol. The fungal cell has ergosterol. And the way we destroy the fungal cell, when you have what you call, the Vincentians call LOTA, we call it liver spots, you know what I mean? When you have athlete's foot, or you have, you got the rash under your neck, or under your armpit, or under your breast, or sometimes when, liver, fungal infections, or fungal rashes. Wherever you have those, we destroy those in many ways. We use ketazole and nizoral and lamisil and itraconazole, all of them. Sporanox, we know how we destroy fungal cells. But how we destroy them is that we attack the ergosterol. We destroy the ergosterol and literally destroy the membrane of the fungal cell. And that's how your face begins to clear up when you have liver spots. So you use all of those antifungals that you use, they attack ergosterol, they cannot attack cholesterol. But now we have designed a drug, and I am not concerned with anybody bringing any medicine. You cannot prove it to me. There's no medicine to prove to me that this is good for the body. And furthermore, the Japanese and the Chinese have just brought out a study proving what we've been saying, or what I've been saying all along, that statins are bad. So if you want to destroy a fungal cell, you attack ergosterol. If you want to destroy a human, you attack cholesterol. In the past, we used to remove cholesterol from the blood, or we used to use an enzyme to break up existing enzyme. We would either remove it through the kidneys, or we would break it up by an enzyme, enzymatic degradation. But what we do today, which is the #1 selling drug across the world, is we use a drug called Mevacor, or atorvastatin, or Lipitor, or Crestor that the doctor puts you on when you have high cholesterol. There are options. And I want you to write the options down this morning. Have you heard of red yeast rice? Somebody came here and did a health lecture and told you about it before, but you've heard of it. Please write it down, red yeast rice. Red yeast rice is a natural herb that does the same job as Crestor and Mevacor, and it will remove the cholesterol without causing too many side effects. It is potent. It is so potent that the American government has removed it from the shelves and prohibited it from sale in the United States. It is available in Barbados. Red yeast rice. Go wherever you can go. I cannot advertise today. I don't work for any of them. You go where you should go, your health stores, and you look for red yeast rice. Additionally, if you were on those Crestor and those Mevacor, did the doctor ever tell you about taking something called coenzyme Q10? Or they just tell you take the Crestor and those and go along your merry way? Well, additionally, just like with the statins, you must add the coenzyme Q10. This is something called CoQ10. Write that down. Those of you who suffer with high cholesterol, red yeast rice, CoQ10. You got that? My mother takes or was taking statins. She would have multiple complaints. She would stop. I would tell her to stop. Before I know it, I would go back and see in the cupboard the statins and say, "Mommy, what's going on?" The doctor what? The doctor could know you. You know Ellen White actually says that you are responsible for your health. When they had the problem with the sanitariums back in her day, where the doctors could not come into the sanitariums because they were very busy, Ellen White said that if what are we to do? She said these were her words. What are we to do? Are we to employ doctors from outside? She said every one of us should know the natural remedies. She said that. And she said we are to avoid those drugs. And you know what's so interesting, and she's so right. A lot of what she said is being proven now. But she said that you must avoid the drugs that are deleterious to our health and that have those big long names, these are her words, to hide the true substances that are in them. Those were her words. She ain't lying. Same thing today. All that we did now is we have what's called brand names, so we don't have big long words anymore. Diethyl, dimesterol, festerol, esterol. We now shorten the thing into a small little word called Crestor, or as you say, cataflam or diamicron or whatever the case may be. All right? And so you have those two. But like I said, talking about some of those things, I have to come back and do that on an AOI program because there's a lot of things to cover. And so I want to, if you could open up, I don't have a pointer, so guys got to keep your eyes on me as I tell you to go and go. So what I'm doing today is I have a separate message, a separate health message of our message, the health message. But what I did is I took out there are 10 points in it, and it's all broken down into little areas. I took out 4 sections of the Seventh-day Adventist health message, 4 sections. And what I did is try to put practical things in there. In other words, I know a lot of us read the servant of the Lord, but she's not alive today. You got to use your common sense now. Yes? You got to take the principles that she had and apply them now. All right? You got to advance. You got to add on to what she said and use your brain. All right? And so let's go on to the next slide. All right, so I want to begin. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm going to read everything for you. Now, this is keynote address by Dr. Chelston Braffett, the agriculturalist. And he said the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute, let me just preface this by saying, because I have a few friends recently who have suffered from stroke. One of my good singing friends in the evangelical congregation, Maya Daniel, she had a stroke two weeks ago, 2 Sabbaths back. And a member of my congregation had a stroke during the week last week overseas on a trip. And Barbados, at 2015, according to the Barbados National Registry of Chronic Disease Research Center, we were having 2 strokes and 1 heart attack per day. That's 2015. We're up to 3 strokes a day now in Barbados. All right? And what should I say? Added to that, we had a situation, and we probably still do have a situation, where 50%, the mortality rate from heart attack, 50% was non-hospitalized. So we are having people dying of heart attacks and strokes, a 50% mortality rate, and dying outside of medical care. It means we're not seeing the physician, all right? And it means we're not personally taking care of our own health. And so these are the figures from the Barbados National Registry, which is run by Dr. Natasha Sobers in the George Allen Chronic Disease Research Center. You're familiar with that? That's Barbados. It's nothing to do with anywhere overseas. This is what we are facing here. So we got to do something different. So he said the Caribbean Food and Nutrition Institute revealed that over the last 25 years, we've had a shift from patterns of malnutrition to obesity. I know some of you who are English teachers know that that's wrong, but we know what he meant. He meant the kwashiorkor type to obesity, because obesity is also malnutrition. He explained that there are over 250,000 species of plants worldwide and 90,000 within our hemisphere, yet we consume wheat, corn, rice, potato, and soybean, all of which we import. Next slide. He says, what about the sweet potato, breadfruit, yam, cassava, and pumpkin? I tell you, the day will come when a man over there sitting in a White House will press a button, a red one, at 3 o'clock. That's not what he said, but it's what I'm saying. And all transportation will cease. So if you are dependent on diamicron and transportation ceases, that drug will not come to this third world country. And if you are dependent on their wheat and their corn and all those things, those foods will not come to this country. And so what happened to our cassava and sweet potato and all of those? He said, the day that you have a catastrophe, what are we going to do? His words, let us cut out the fast foods and let us change to a food culture grounded in the use of locally, organically produced food. Before we finish today, you will know the difference between conventional, organic, and GMO. And you will know how to spot them in the supermarket. Next slide. What does our health message say? This is one section of the health message. I have them in 10, this is one. The body can be polluted, defiled, and ultimately destroyed through various bad health habits. And I'm using A and G. There are about 8 or 9 sections. So the first one, ingestion of deleterious food and drinks and harmful substances, and failure to employ natural remedies or employ them in sufficient amounts. All right? And you have the quotes there that you can see. So what are we eating? So are we eating or cheating? So are we eating foods processed in the past, which were natural, straightforward? If you had to cut up an apple, if you had to cut up or crush some fruit, if you had to make mango into mango juice, that's natural. That's mechanical processing. Are we eating, or are we, next slide, cheating? Are we using food processed, bearing little resemblance to the original whole food, genetically modified, with artificial sweeteners, trans fats, and chemical preservatives, and then packaged in plastics, which give you cancer too? What are we doing? Next slide. Margarine. It's not going to be that ordinary health message where you know, water, sunlight, nutrition. I going after the things you keep in your kitchen that are destroying you. So what you see before you is something called PVC, polyvinyl chloride, plastic, margarine. And so how is it made? When we get through taking the real vegetable matter, and we extract the oils at high temperatures, and then we remove the oils, the fraction of oil, the remaining fraction of oil, we remove with hexane, industrial strength hexane, and any other solvent, industrial solvents. Then the smell is so horrible that we have to steam clean it. This is the margarine. And then we take, after we skin out, because that's all I could use, that's the only word I could use to describe, we skin out the goodness, we put back in vitamins and antioxidants, unnatural ones. And then we move on a little further, come down here, we put in soap-like emulsifiers, and then we steam clean again to remove the, what you see there, the odor, the horrible odor, because it smells rancid. This is what you eat. And then it is not even the color, that pretty color of the slide before. It is gray, you know, like gray, like when you're using axle grease. Yes. And then what we do to get it to turn to that nice yellow color, we bleach it. Gray color removed by bleach. We have a margarine factory here. You can ask them, you think they do tours? You could tour with Bisco. You could tour Purity. And then you put in artificial flavors, synthetic vitamins, and natural color. Then you mix it in blocks and tubs, and you advertise it. Next slide for promotion. And that's what we're eating. What are we eating? I'll tell you there is no margarine in my house, and there has not been margarine in my house for years. We have alternatives. You wouldn't believe. And they've been there for years, and we've moved away from them. So what do we have? We have these trans fats, unnatural fats in margarine, shortening, spreads, and these are produced by a process of what's called hydrogenation, turning liquid vegetable oils into solid fats. That's what we do. That's how we get the margarine. The trans fats contribute to heart disease, cancer, bone problems, hormonal imbalance. I'm saying that all the time, and the reason every year I have at least 100 nursing students. I'm talking about nursing. I'm not even dealing with pharmacy, any of the other HIM, any of the other people I teach. But nursing, 100 students. And at least 70% or 70 of those students have some type of uterine disorder at 16, 17, 18, and 19. PCOS, endometriosis, ectopic stuff going on up in there. You with me? And so that's what we're dealing with in Barbados. And so skin diseases, infertility, difficulties in pregnancy and problems with lactation, low birth weight, growth problems, and learning disabilities in children. You don't have to ask. We have difficulty with people knowing how to reason. Man-made trans fats are unsafe, according to the US government, at any level. Next slide. What else do we find? Now, there are a lot more things. I removed them from the main lecture. We have these soy protein isolates that cause thyroid dysfunction and digestive disorders. I'm just going to go through them quickly. We have emulsifiers and preservatives. And by the way, you can check. You have, if you see something here, you see BHA and BHT, butylated hydroxyanisole and butylated hydroxytoluene. Go and look at your margarine when you get home, and that is a preservative used in the margarine that is a carcinogen. So on top of you eating something that is not really food, that is plastic, it's preserved by something that will also give you cancer, and stored in something that will give you cancer. We always ask, when you go to the doctor cannot ever tell you the origin of your disease. What the doctor does is gives you something to treat disease. Is there anybody has a different experience? Most of the time the doctor can't tell. The only body who knows the origin of disease is God Almighty himself. When my students ask me, when I go through mechanisms of action, and the pharmacy students or the nursing students, they ask me, why did this happen? That's when I start to preach in class. Genesis chapter 1, and we go from there. Sin. There ain't no answer to it but sin. All right, so on this slide, you will also see sterols. We just spoke a little bit about sterols, but I want you to see something here. You see, I've highlighted endocrine problems associated with sterols, and in animal studies, sterols contribute to sexual. What it says? But you born that way, yes? It is a lot to do with what you're eating. And the servant of the Lord had laid it out for us a long time ago. She told you how we get from here, by what we put in here, and how it even affects our thinking. We can't think straight to study the word or even rightly define the word of truth. And we can't behave. We can't think straight to behave. So we end up interfering with little girls that we ain't supposed to interfere with, you know? Not me. I get blessed with somebody to interfere with. And that is all I need. So the next slide shows you an option. You ever heard of that? And it's you can get, I'm going to show you the next slide after, but look at the number of things. You would think that something that is oily isn't good for you. Increased metabolism, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, curbs hunger, improves cholesterol. A brain booster, skin clearing, supports weight loss, reduces insulin sensitivity, which is the biggest problem we have with diabetics, insulin sensitivity. You know why you put on the metformin? You know about the metformin? The reason why you put on the metformin is because the receptors, the insulin receptors are clogged with fat, fatty deposits. So they have to go and give you that metformin to help remove the fat from the thing. So the problem is not necessarily that you have a shortage of insulin anymore, and it's not necessarily a problem where enough insulin is not getting from the pancreas to the cells. It's not necessarily that problem, but insulin resistance is probably the problem we've been having all along. And a lot of the risk factors for insulin resistance is obesity. Risk factors for diabetes, obesity. Because the same fat, and especially the studies show the fat that is around this area, is the fatty deposits. That is what is deposited on the insulin receptors, preventing the God-given insulin from getting to its destination. And so when you go to the doctor, what does the doctor do? The doctor does two things. You're either type 1 or type 2. The majority of people are type 2. So the type 1 diabetic has to get insulin. A lot of the times when, you know that we are reversing type 2 diabetes in Loma Linda, up there. Do you know that we are a blue zone? The Adventist Church in Loma Linda is the only place where it is a blue zone that is not a country. We speak of countries being blue zones, and then you speak of the Adventist community as another blue zone. There's no other blue zone in the world that is other than a country, other than our institution up there in Loma Linda. You've heard of the Weimar Institute? A blue zone. She's asking what is a blue zone. A blue zone is an area where people live to over 100 years. The majority of people live to more than 100 years. Thank you. That's the teacher in Sister Thane that had me to clarify for you, because then I would be saying that and you don't know what I mean. So thank you. And so what we do is we end up giving in type 1, we give the insulin injection, or in type 2, we give something to help the pancreas produce or release more insulin from the pancreas. But the problem may never have been any of the two. You may never do. All the problem could have been is that you need to remove insulin. You need to remove fatty deposits from your insulin receptors. You get those removed, you're back to normal. Exercise and diet, correct. And so remember, we don't use any of those what you call sunflower oil and all those things in our home. We use coconut oil. If we can't get it by buying it, we'll ask somebody to make it for us. But we buy it. It's actually available in Barbados now. And you don't get it in the supermarkets. I can't advertise. I was going to tell you where you can go and get it. But for those of you, and I have to say something here about my Seventh-day Adventist brothers and sisters. Some of you come and hear these messages given by the the health professionals or the medical missionaries, and you walk away and you say, I can dead anyhow. And what you expect me to eat? Your body, you always must remember that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, which you have been given charge over. You're not of yourself. And so therefore you have to take care of this body. You're responsible for taking care of this vessel so that it can be properly used for God. That's our responsibility. So if you're one of the people that's skeptical and you're one of the people that say it's too expensive, when you have to buy those medications, especially the ones that are not on the formulary, the ones that because Don Villinis did a good job in removing some of those expensive ones and have you using the generic, some of them that don't work. Yes, they don't work. Those drugs, you're going to have to pay upwards to 70 to 100 and go and get the coconut oil. Don't talk about coconut oil, it's too expensive. It's your health. So do something to prevent yourself from getting disease. And we're not immune to disease. We live in a world of sin. It can happen whether we eat healthy or exercise or not. There's not as a prescription, but there's a prescription for living healthy. Next slide. And so the next slide is, before that. The one right before that. So that's an image of, that's the old one. I think I have a picture of the new one on my phone. But Carrington Farms, that's the one we get. And if you get, be careful what you buy. Let me help you to figure out what the difference. That, in the way that emulsifies in the AC unit in the store, that is real. If you have coconut oil and it doesn't emulsify, I'm going to show you how. If you have the coconut oil and it doesn't emulsify, it is not coconut oil. It's not real organic coconut oil. There are other things I want you to spot. If you buy the coconut, if you go to the store to buy the coconut oil, this is what I do. I take it up and I walk to the refrigerator. I walk to the store refrigerator that has any drinks. And I put it in there and shut the door and I finish the shopping. And when I come back, if it doesn't look like that, I take it back out and I put it back on the shelf. It is not real coconut oil. They have mixed it with something and they continually do this. They mix things for mass production or scaling up. So it might say on the label, but it's not real. Well, emulsifying, similar to what I was talking about earlier with hydrogenation, but in a good way. The temperature, as soon as you drop the temperature, the viscosity of the substance thickens or becomes harder. The viscosity increases is really what it is. And viscosity, it becomes harder or thicker. It becomes like a solid, like the same coconut jelly that you would probably use. It becomes that way again. And so that's how you know it's real. So always remember there's a way to know. If you don't have things, if you bought it already, put it in the fridge. Not the freezer, put it in the fridge. And in no time, it will emulsify like that. The viscosity will increase. If you, in the supermarket, do what I tell you. Put it in the people fridge and go and come back. And if it's, there are other types. Let me tell you another fake one is when you see it emulsifying but forming these globules, these circular globules, that's fake. Huh? How? Say again, say it louder, I can't hear. I come in. Yeah. Yes, the same type. So you would see these circular like globules like. And when you see those things, you know that they've mixed the real coconut oil with one of those corn oils or sunflower oils. And so you're not getting what they're saying they're giving you. So when we can't get it made, we buy it. All right? Okay, and I always say either this or the doctor. Pay the doctor. Next one. Olive oil is the other thing. Now, we cannot cook with this, and I'm going to show you in the next slide how. Olive oil is the next thing, and you will see all the benefits of olive oil there. We do not cook with it, but what we do is we can use it in salads, or what I was doing when we stopped using margarine, and I don't have a desire to do this anymore with breads. But when we stopped using margarine, I still had a taste for something. So what I used to do is I used to take one of those barbecue brushes. We have one at home. We never had barbecue at home, but we have a barbecue brush. And I took one of those small, I don't know what it was used for. I don't even know if it's a barbecue brush. We see the brush one. And I took one of those, I dip it in the olive oil, and I moisten the bread. Here, this is a testimony here. Moisten the bread with it. And so one of the things that people ask me, if you can't get the margarine, you can't do this, what you're going to bake with? So one day I was doing the presentation, because I don't cook. I stir concrete, cut wood. And then I'm a jug dealer and a jug pusher. And one day I was doing a presentation, and Pastor Roosevelt Daniels said, when you put that margarine or that butter or whatever you use on that spread, and you put it in the pan, and it gets hot, how does it become? Does it stay solid? No, it melts, right? Are you baking with it too? Where it is? Look, it's already in the thing. Go back to the coconut oil. It's already in the liquid form. So you just cut out a step, the heat step. Continue from there and bake your bread. And he said he bakes all of his breads. And he bakes a lot of good bread. He can bake. I admire him. And he bakes all his Pastor Roosevelt Daniels. No, I'm calling the wrong name. Roosevelt Haynes, not Daniels. That always happens to me. Roosevelt Haynes, not Roosevelt Daniels. I don't really know Roosevelt Daniels. So he bakes all of his things, and he uses the same thing. Cut out a step. You go straight there, and it tastes just as good as when you're going to use all of these other things. You also got to be careful where you get at bakeries, because the bakeries use these lards and things, right? Okay, so the next slide I want to show you, I want to just show you something. I deliberately had to put that section in there. It's like a little disclaimer, because I did a presentation once, 2 years ago at the Mile and a Quarter Church. There was a elderly lady sitting at the front, and she saw the original thing. It had the original showing you the tallow, the sweet, and the lard, and it had safest, most stable. Let me just explain. The lard is stable, but we know according to the Word of God, it is not for human. Because it is stable, I cannot change the chemistry of lard, and I cannot come and tell you it's unstable. That would be telling lies. It is stable, ain't to eat. The pig there, but the pig ain't to eat. The pig natural, remember the pig natural. So the lard natural, it's stable according to chemistry. But if you notice at the top, the two that you can, and underneath those is coconut oil and olive oil falling within the safe, most stable category. And the most stable of them is coconut oil. And then coming down to the unsafe and least stable. Unsafe and least stable are the vegetable shortening, the corn oil, the soybean oil, and the sunflower oil that we run to pick up in the supermarket. So we don't use those in our home. All right? The practice, it has to be like a lifestyle practice that you hear and you do. And some people will not, and we are not even to judge people. I can show you where Ellen White says, before we finish, Ellen White says we are not to force people or use our prescription on others. We can only share information and encourage, yes? All right, next slide. All right, so this is one that a lot of you in here indulge in, aspartame. Aspartame was not a drug. Huh? Yeah, it's a carcinogen. Aspartame was not for human consumption. And it became a drug for human consumption. Let me say it, because you said it's streaming, I don't hide. It became a drug for human consumption when President Reagan took office. It was a political favor for a pharmaceutical company, G.D. Searle. The history is there. And the scientists, and the majority of scientists on the panel, declared this aspartame to be wood alcohol and told these people not to put this thing. And the head of G.D. Searle, who was made, as a result of an election favor, who was made the head of the FDA. You took somebody from a pharmaceutical firm and you make them the head of the FDA. Yes? You with me? And that person used his vote to override the vote of the committee, that the nayers on the committee, and brought aspartame in as a food product, as a sugar substitute. It is not for human consumption. It is wood alcohol. And I will show you on the next couple slides why it is not for human consumption. But don't move from this slide yet. You stay right there. Now, let me just share with you when we talk about pharmaceutical companies or pharmaceutical firms, I'd like to share this, just one little thing with you. Since I left this church, I've had a number of jobs in the pharmaceutical world. And two of those jobs before going into teaching was working for, one was a Swiss pharmaceutical company, and another one was a local one. And in the period that I worked for the Swiss company, there were things that we were required to do, and there were benefits to be derived. In other words, I had a salary with 7 or 8 perks attached every month. So I wasn't just making a fixed salary. In those days, I used to pay my school fees at the Adventist school in Awan. So I could pay a whole year. Now, I just be down near the end of the term scrambling to pay because I work for the government now. Just saying. It is something I walked away from. But whenever we want to... I remember my boss said to me, if God is for you, who can be against you? He knew what he meant. And I hope he's listening. Because whenever you gave me a product to get on the Barbados formulary, I got it on. I remember being told one day, if you get this one product on, I will personally write you a check for $500. It's nothing to do with the perks or my salary. This was a direct message from the boss. If you get these 2 products on, I will write you a personal check for $1,500. That has nothing to do with what I was making otherwise. I should have asked for more. Because I went down the road, blam, whack, damn, done. The formula committee talked to the head, the chairman, everybody, the products on. The boss, my middle manager, if God is for you, who can be against you? And he knows why he said that. Because it's sometimes the people that are against you ain't the people up top, but the people that are right there trying to cut your throat. And I remember when I left the job, the interesting thing, sometimes people say sometimes you go your way to help people sometimes, right? But I didn't remember. My same middle manager had to go up to Canada for some treatment. And he was given the rigors by the immigration. Rigors. They put him through all kinds of things. And when he said that he was a pharmacist, the same, because the person at the immigration was actually a military soldier. It wasn't police, it was military. And when this happened, it's just being kind to people. When he said he was a pharmacist, the guy, and said he was from Barbados, the guy smiled and asked him if he knew a fellow named Robert Carter. So he's telling me this account after I've left the company now. His wife said to him, you got to go and tell Robert this. He might give me bare trouble, you know. And so, I mean, who out there that I don't know anybody? But it was a simple act. Y'all remember Dawn? Remember Dawn Minot? Yes. One day Dawn called me, and I didn't remember. She told me, this guy is on a U.S. naval ship, and I want you to take him around the island. So I remember that because he told my former boss all the places that I took him, and he smiled, and he said, all the trouble he was giving him, he have a good stay, sir. Just for kindness. You just be kind to somebody. I didn't remember that Dawn asked me to take anybody anywhere. I do not remember the date that I took him anywhere. I don't remember where I took him, but the account is there. Just be nice to people, and it comes back to you. So my same boss, who was giving me the stick, was now able to tell me, boy, when he was telling me, I tell him, you can't mean Robert Carter. He was telling him, you can't mean Robert Carter. Just be nice to people. It comes back to you. So if you look, pull the slide up. And I say that to say that this drug was brought onto the market. Anytime we wanted a drug onto, I think we would kind of what you call woo a doctor. And one of those companies we would ask the doctor, or we would have a conference. So let's say if the conference is in Paris. And we would pay for him to go, pay for his wife to go, pay for the child to go. If we want the dog to go, we will make arrangements for the dog to go. And we will also write a check. Pharmaceutical companies got money. So we will write a check. This is from this local country. We will write a check, and in the check, we will give the check to the wife. So when she gets to Paris, she can go through the streets and shop. By the time that doctor comes back, what drug do you think he's going to write for? A or B? B. And that's the kind of thing that we would do. We didn't think it was unethical, but it's now unethical according to the laws of Barbados, so we can't do those things anymore. And so when I say that to you and tell you that this little black boy was working for a salary in Barbados and a six-figure, when G.D. Searle leaves a pharmaceutical company, when we talk about leaving, the strategy of leaving, they don't leave the head of a pharmaceutical company. Do you know if I get in all these perks, what he getting over there? You understand what I'm saying? You understand why I gave you that background? So if he's going to leave the company, he's left for a reason. And the minute they got aspartame onto the market, he resigned as the head of the FDA. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. And he went back to G.D. Searle. Because no government, and I've come to realize, no government can pay you what a pharmaceutical firm pays you. Right? I am poor and rich in Jesus. Next slide. So, but before you change the slide, I just want you to look there because some of you may try to get away. You see the dentine gum and the Eclipse gum that you have in your purse? Aspartame. The Zero Coke and the Zero Sprite and all those things, aspartame. All those things, aspartame. They're changing them now because I noticed some of them coming with stevia. But we'll talk about that. Next slide. I want you to know what aspartame is. Last time I came here, it was for a funeral. Do you know what they used to embalm the bodies with? Dead bodies? What substance is up there? Formaldehyde. Methanol in aspartame converts to formaldehyde, a deadly neurotoxin, and then to formic acid, which in turn causes metabolic acidosis. So when you're chewing the dentine gum, you're just helping the undertaker, bringing it to a nice temperature and turning it into some nice aspartame. So you do the undertaker job. He wants some money, so you are continue to help him. So you got the aspartame. You got the dentine and the Eclipse gum. You're drinking those diet things that you think good for you because they mark diet. Throw them away, leave them on the shelf. And a number of Jell-O comes in those. A number of things that we use come in. When you're walking through the shop, it is your responsibility to look at the labels and look at and make a choice. Next slide. Let me see if I can move along. It is 200 times sweeter than sugar. That is why they would want aspartame over sugar. Mass production scaling up. The aspartame drives the blood out of control. You have acute memory loss. It's neurotoxic and a whole slew of conditions. And I just highlighted panic attacks, rage, and violence. That is why I can't have no aspartame because I already got a hot temper. Some of you know already. So the next slide talks. Next slide. This is the option. Now that's a bag that I bought at a health store. And so you have this sweet herb, and it helps the metabolism of sugar, which will be ideal for diabetics. It's called stevia. Do not go to the store and look at a box that says stevia. It is not truthful. Those packaged boxes in those big supermarkets, they have mixed the stevia with dextrose. You're back at square one again. Get to the health store and get the stevia and work it. Another time I come, I'll be able to give you the remedies and recipes for using these things, but can't stop to do that now. So stevia, you got that written down? Diabetics, stevia. There's another one. Next slide. Y'all know what Blackstrap Molasses? No, but even if you ain't got the Blackstrap, you know what's molasses? That's just a pretty name. You could go down to the port and get some $10 a bucket. Molasses. What it says, allows the food or the sugars to digest more slowly, which may help stabilize the blood sugar. Same thing we do when we want to use the next slide. Genetic modified organisms. Who's heard of them? What we did is we took a gene, we spliced a gene from one organism, a fungus, whatever, and we took it and we put it into another organism to enrich that organism and make it more resistant to mosquitoes, or not mosquitoes, to pests, whatever we do it. Or we take something from corn and we want to be able to make things from it. So we make another, we put the gene in another fruit so we can mass produce. We have this thing called seedless grapes. Anytime you see seedless grapes, that is genetically modified. You need to leave seedless grapes on the shelf. That's simple. If it doesn't have seed, it cannot be of God. Leave it on the shelf. That's genetic modification. What is our hurry? What are we rushing to do? We're trying not to have seeds because we are in a hurry to eat them. We are in a hurry to die. That's what we're doing. Education without application is what I call abortion. So this type of alteration is not found in nature. Next slide. And you will see there, it's very confusing. You can see corn, soy. How do we know the difference? Does that look just like the same thing we apply? Next slide. When we go to the store, we need to determine for ourselves what is the difference between the organic, the conventional, and the GMO foods. And this is how we know. You see the stickers they put on the bananas? Right. Mind you, I have to say there's a caveat to this now, because for a number of years, and again this week, something has come out in the media where they are producing a genetically modified fish. They're genetically modifying a fish. Can't remember what fish it is. And of course, the fish is much bigger than the regular fish. It's salmon, I think it was. Salmon or tilapia? Salmon, I think it was salmon. It's much bigger, way huge. Of course, you're going to get more from it. It's genetically modified, and they're not telling the consumers. They went to Congress. They do it all the time. They go and lobby for them to hide the fact that they have genetically modified. And they've gone to Congress to do it for 2 years. So that's just last week. So I always say we need to go in the market and get our goods, or we need to plant something like Owen Arthur said in the backyard. And he does it. He's not a hypocrite to his words. He has a spot of land there in West Terrace, and the next set there, you can pass and see it. The next lot of land is all produce. And you will see there you have organic, and that's a gold standard. We're aiming for organically, nothing that has been used. Where have you been using pesticides, harmful pesticides? Where you have 5 digits, a 5-digit code beginning with the number 9. You may not be able to see it clearly. You can see it, 94129. 5 digits beginning with 9 is organic. 5 digits beginning with 8 is genetically modified. You see that in the story, leave it. You got that? 5 digits with 9, organic. That's natural, no pesticides. 5 digits beginning with 8, that is GMO. And then we got the 4-digit ones, which is, you see this on the bananas and stuff like that. This is what you call conventional growth. It is not genetically modified, but they use pesticides. So sometimes what we get really is the lesser of the two evils. So this is getting conventional is much better than going GMO. But when you get conventional, you can take the same fruit, and I can't do this now, but you can take the fruit, and according to a formula, you can put either baking soda, or you can put acetic acid, apple cider vinegar, acetic acid, the apple cider vinegar, and you can put the fruits inside a bowl with apple cider vinegar or baking soda, and it will take off the film, the pesticide film, and sometimes the coating that they put on these things to make them look good, because when really and truly you have to eat through that before you get the natural fruit. So that actually lifts the film to the top, and you can wash it off and then use your fruits thing. You may not get all the pesticides, because some pesticides go in, but it's the less of the two evils. We're trying to prevent disease here, right? You can use hydrogen peroxide, correct. Like I tell you, there's a lecture that I have that goes through all this and gives you all the recipes. All right, let's move on. Microwave dangers. Do you have these in your home? All right. I did a presentation 2 years ago at Berea, and the lady went home and she threw the microwave out. She said, I listened to you, and I threw the microwave out. Now, I ain't telling you what to do. I didn't throw out mine, but I stopped using it. I plugged it out. It was there, because the space was void. It was there until I got what we call a toaster. Convection. When you microwave, next slide, when you microwave things, you have what you call 1 million or more polarity reversals and vibrations a second. And so you're vibrating these molecules in a manner that actually destroys the atomic structure of the minerals that you have. So when you start to eat the food that you have microwaved, it is no longer anything of nutrient value. And that's been proven. All right, when I see people heading out with the bags and things, heading out, let me try and finish up quick. Now these are 2 instances where they microwave milk and it was deleterious to a child, poisonous. It caused kidney damage as well as brain damage. And in this case, where the woman died, they went and microwaved the blood for transfusion. A nurse did that, and it resulted in her death and a major lawsuit in Oklahoma. I just put it there to let you know this thing is real. And this thing doesn't take long. So the next slide, I'm just going to read for you quickly. These two gentlemen did the studies in the 90s to prove to you that microwaving was bad for health. And what they did, a consumer agency got together and they took these guys to task and banned them from bringing out the information. That's not possible in this day and age. It shouldn't have even been possible then. If two scientists or two medical doctors, if they get together and they do a scientific medical study, the only person that can refute a medical study is someone in the medical fraternity, not a consumer agency. But this powerful consumer advocacy group got them to remove their information. And the only reason that these gentlemen were able to go again and promote the information or distribute the information was because they had to go to The Hague. And The Hague threw out the case with the consumer agency, and they were able to share the information again. And that's how we got it. Microwave foods lose 60 to 90% of vital energy, accelerate structural destruction of food. The field next to the microwave causes a series of health problems. I used to tell Shauna, when we used to use microwave, I knew that the field, the ELF waves was a problem. So I used to say, when you put something in there, you ease out here and you use the counter out here. I used to tell my wife that. Because I used to tell her, I have plans for you. Next slide. In Jesus' name. Microwaving alters food chemistry, which can lead to malfunctions in the lymphatic system and degenerates the body's ability to protect itself against cancerous growths. Microwaving altered the breakdown of elemental substances. This was the actual study here. When raw or cooked or frozen vegetables were exposed for even a very short period of time. You remember they were warming the microwave blood for transfusion. They wouldn't have put it in there for a long time and it mashed up the blood. So when you do it to food, it mashes up the food in a short space of time. And then it lowers the body's ability to utilize B complex, B vitamins, and vitamin C. Next slide. We're going to go through this quickly. Now this is a little experiment that was done, and they used two plants pruned back to record the new growth. And you will see on the left, microwave water was used, not hot, microwave water that cooled, was used to wet this plant, and purified water was used to wet that plant. Day 3. Y'all see any difference? Day 7. You see any difference? This is within the space of 1 week. And you're taking that thing and using that thing every day, talking about you warming up food because you're in a hurry. And you're at work in the staff room. You know they don't use that, you know, because I don't even know how this happened. When I did my presentations, people asked me for excerpts. I sent excerpts to 1 or 2 people in the congregation. The excerpts made it all the way to the States or England, and it came back to my HOD at the college, and she came to me one day and told me, look, somebody sent me this from the United States. And they're looking at the thing and say, well, these are my slides. So everything that I'm telling you has now gone all over the world and come back. Somewhere, somehow. That's the technology. Somebody in the audience said, I just want 1 or 2 things, and I gave them, and they send them all over. But that's day 7. Day 9, you see a plant? So just think about it. If you got all of the evidence and you got the little practical experiments, what do you think a microwave is doing to you? In 1 day, in 10 seconds, the microwave is actually destroying you. And you're not eating. So you're contributing to destroying that body, which is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And we're responsible for it. Let's go on. So I said that's my option. We spoke about that already. And I just want to share here before I go into the other part. Go on, yes. You know that gentleman. He was always, in his entire career, in his starting career, he always advertised himself in front of one of those McDonald's. I assume he has shares in them. Next slide. After his 2004, what it said there? And receiving a blistering email from he made life-changing decisions. And what did he say? I just decided that I was the high-risk person. I didn't want to fool with this anymore, and I wanted to live to be a. And so it says, so I decided to pick the diet that I thought would maximize my chances of long-term survival. Next slide. Next slide. You see the diet he's on now? He's no longer advertising McDonald's. Because McDonald's, their quadruple bypass burgers put him in a quadruple bypass surgical state. What does the health message say? Wherever possible, healing should be accomplished through natural remedies. And I said to you before, every person should have a knowledge of the nature's remedial agencies and how to apply them. Next slide. So I want to tell you about this remedy. And this is a proven fact, and this is nowhere in Indonesia or anywhere. This is our sister country, our sister Caribbean island over there in Jamaica, where y'all sent me to study, or where you run and left y'all and study. Published in the Journal of Natural Products in 1996, compound 1, one of the 5 extracted from the seed of the graviola fruit, graviola is soursop in your backyard, was found to be selectively cytotoxic to colon cancer. Not just cytotoxic in killing the cancer, but 10,000 times stronger than the chemotherapy that they're giving you. The soursop. Next slide. Further, let me shorten up this here. The Journal of Nutrition and Cancer revealed highly promising research that the graviola extract suppress what you call the oncogene in breast cancer, that gene that multiplies or proliferates in breast cancer. Soursop. Next slide. So here's the experience. You see that lady there? She's a church woman just like you and me, and a church man just like you and me. That's her husband. These are the curlews in Jamaica, St. Anne's. And you see that dress she got hanging on the tree? The doctor gave her 2 weeks to live. There was nothing more they could do for her with her cancer. That's what they thought. And that was the dress she picked out. You know like how when y'all do this thing to me where the people got my name down in the back, you think you got the funeral done organized and got me singing Midnight Cry? No, I ain't doing it no more. She had her dress picked out. She was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer in late 2002. She went through an agonizing series of chemotherapy, which it was ending up like it was almost killing her, and she had to plan her own funeral. Next slide. Around the same time, my husband Ray got an email about the cancer-curing properties of the soursop tree. He did some research and was mesmerized by what he found, and not having any empirical evidence, he set out to use the leaves and the bark of the soursop, not just the fruit, the leaves and the bark of the soursop tree in a concoction that will do what to Yvonne's cancer? Kill it. They said no, we're all in it. There's no scientific study done, because you see the red yeast rice that I was telling you about the Americans banned, they didn't want to do no studies on that. You know why they didn't want to do no studies on that? Because you can't make money from natural things. It is just as potent. You can't make money from natural things. Do you know that this information about I just told you about soursop was available in the 70s, and somebody put it in a vault because they didn't want anybody to know that soursop is cure cancer? And now what they're trying to do, that's why you're foolish when you're going to cut down, you go and buy land to build house on, and you're cutting down the trees, because they're sending you the genetically modified soursop seeds to come for you to plant to give you the cancer. You know that's what they're doing? So don't cut down your coconut tree, nor your soursop tree, nor the things you got that you see the breadfruit tree. Where we are, after much encouragement from, I know what he do. She didn't want to take it, but he encouraged her. No abuse. Yvonne drank the portion. She got sicker initially and refused. But watch this. After a month of being on the dose, which pharmaceutical product you notice do that? After a month of being on the dose, her health improved. When they did tests in 2009 to determine whether to recommence chemotherapy, the movement of cancer cells had stopped. In 2010, no cancer cells were detected in her body. There's another slide to this, but I couldn't put it in. But it shows you the people that they gave the thing to who got recovered from brain cancer, this cancer, and the people who refused to take it that end up dying. They're all dead. Because you want the people chemo, the FDA chemo. So let me scroll down some more. The next one. So this is just to show you what's going on in the world now. While you're running from your local produce, that is soursop leaves selling for $39.95 on Amazon. And I didn't pick this up off the internet. If you look there, you will see Robert M. Carter. That's my name. St. James, Barbados is the rest of the thing that you can't see. That's mine. And not only that, but I didn't put it in this one. 2 breadfruits. 2 breadfruits, they call them exotic fruits. $39.95 on eBay. So you add that, there's $120 after the taxes. And then I didn't even put in shipping. So you're up to $160, and you're lucky to take off NRSL or NSRL. $160 for 2 breadfruit to get that into the island. Next slide. We're coming down to the end. What does the self-message say? In seeking to reform others, attitude may be more important than precept. Next slide. We can skip that, what she says there, because it's what she says next that I want to emphasize. Now, this is important because some of us have attitude when it comes to talking to people about things. Your way of life is not something you force down anybody's throat. And I want you to see what the servant of the Lord said. The same servant of the Lord that says all the other things, this is what she says. Those who understand the laws of health and who are governed by principle will shun the extremes, both of indulgence and of restriction. Are we clear? She says shun the extremes. I can show you where she says eggs are beneficial are beneficial for your health. But a lot of you ain't going to eat eggs because they come from a chicken. Their diet is so, what happened is I read Ellen White. I didn't listen to you telling me about Ellen White. I went and read it for myself. And I found things in there that you didn't know were there. A lot of things in there. But you won't believe in there. Their diet is chosen not for the mere gratification of appetite, but for the upbuilding of the body. They seek to preserve every power in the best condition for highest service to God and man. The subject should be studied broadly and deeply. You don't just pick out a quote from Ellen White and run with it and say, are you going with this? Study deeply and broadly and according to the word of God as well. No one should criticize others because their practice is not in all things in harmony with their own. When she said his, she used the masculine. Their own. It is impossible to make an unvarying rule to regulate everyone's habits, and no one should think himself a criterion for all. And so I want to be clear. She is not telling you do as you please, do as the 11th commandment of the satanic community, do as thou wilt. That's not what she's saying. But she's saying to you, in your job is to live healthy, live according to the health laws, practice it to the best of your ability. But if this person is not where you are not to criticize that person for not being at the level where you are. You work your level, or you work your preventative measures before you and God. And let them work out their present. You can encourage them, but don't ever judge them or put them down. Say they're eating fish or they're eating chicken and all that. Don't do it. She tell you don't do it. Move on. Next message. There were 4, so I think this is the third or the last. There is a significant link between the Christian physical condition and the spiritual experience. Move on. And this is the last. And this is the one that I want to talk about. If the stomach is not properly cared for, the formation of an upright moral character will be hindered. Health ain't nothing all to do with living healthy and being healthy and not having illness. It's the health of up here. Because if up here functioning, it's a waste of time. What use are you for God? And so she said erroneous eating and drinking result in erroneous thinking and acting. Next slide. And I think this is the last one. Any unhealthy habit will produce an unhealthful condition in the system. Whatever you're doing. Masturbating, that's an unhealthy habit. Don't think about eating all the time. Huh? You're watching, what you call it, Spartacus and Scandal, and what the new ones, they got some new ones that they got, don't call them because they can say you're watching them. The Bible says what? What? Defiles. I will set no wicked thing before my living machinery, and the delicate living machinery of the stomach will be injured and will not be able to do the work properly. And I want to say something to you about something Ellen White said that is now a study. They did a study. Where the place they make the Nokia phone? It was Belgium. Where the Nokia phone people? It was Sweden. It was one of them countries, not Sweden, but Finland. They've got some healthy people out there. And the Finnish, you call them the Finnish? The Finnish people have now done the study telling you that when you eat your breakfast in the morning, if you interrupt that before the lunchtime, before the 5 hours have passed, if you interrupt that with eating just even a mint, you restart the digestive process again. So when they did the study and they checked the gut, the people who did not eat, the majority, the whole cohort in the study who did not eat between meals had a full empty stomach at lunchtime. But those who went at the thing and by the cascade or those who went and buy the little thing, I think, she said in the midst, so if you go at 9 o'clock, and you got, sorry, I didn't have the mic. You go at 9 o'clock and you interrupt that, it restarts the day so that when you check the gut, not just what you ate, but the food that was in there that should have been fully digested is still remaining. They now tell you, you must space your meals by, they know about Ellen White, you must space your meals by 5 hours. Who tell me so first? Brother Bess, who tell me so first? Spirit of prophecy. We had it first. We didn't need nobody to come and do a study because we get it from divine authority. And so I say the diet, the last line, the diet has much to do with the disposition to enter into. And I was looking for this for years because I read this a long time ago. It was when I was going to church here. And then somehow it got hidden from me. I couldn't find it. And I find it back. The diet has much to do with the disposition to enter into temptation and commit sin. You don't have the time to talk about that. Let's go to the last slide. You don't have the time to talk about that. We could go into that. We can do that sometime. Sorry, Sister Payne, go ahead.